In the wake of the opposition's sweeping victories in Turkey's 2024 local elections, the political climate has grown even more volatile. On June 5, 2025, the government launched a criminal investigation against Özgür Özel, leader of the main opposition CHP, a move widely seen as an attempt to cripple the party's growing influence. This escalation is part of a decade-long pattern, the blurring of lines between state, judiciary, and ruling party, systematically silencing dissent. The charges against Özel, stemming from his criticism of a prosecutor, highlight how free speech is now criminalized in Turkey. The government's message is clear: challenging the established order comes with severe consequences. For many Turks, this is not just about one man. It's a test of whether democracy can survive in the face of relentless pressure. The promise of the 2024 elections is now under direct assault, and the world is watching as Turkey's fragile democracy hangs in the balance. The outcome will shape not only Turkey's future, but the stability of the entire region. Özgür Özel, a dynamic new leader, took the helm of the CHP in late 2023, promising a more assertive opposition. Under his leadership, the party achieved historic wins in the 2024 local elections, expanding into conservative strongholds and shaking the AKP's dominance. This success made Özel the government's top target. The June 2025 investigation against him followed a fiery speech defending embattled mayors and denouncing a politicized judiciary. Prosecutors seized on his defiance, framing it as a criminal threat. Özel now faces the challenge of resisting legal pressure without fracturing his party's coalition. He's using the investigation as a rallying cry, casting himself as a defender of democracy against authoritarianism. How he navigates this crisis will shape both his future and the opposition's prospects in the run-up to 2028. The opposition's 2024 local election triumph shattered the AKP's aura of invincibility, signaling a seismic shift in Turkish politics. The CHP's victories in major cities and even AKP heartlands were seen as a referendum on the government's economic failures. Instead of accepting defeat, the government launched a campaign to undermine opposition-led municipalities. Investigations, funding cuts, and legal harassment became routine, escalating into outright persecution by spring 2025. The arrest of Istanbul Mayor Ekrem İmamoğlu was the most dramatic move, but part of a broader strategy to stifle opposition power. The government's message electoral wins mean little if the central authority refuses to honor them. What should have been a new era of competitive democracy has instead triggered a backlash threatening to roll back hard-won freedoms. The stakes for Turkey's democratic future have never been higher. The case against Özgür Özel is emblematic of how Turkey's legal system has been weaponized to silence dissent. Laws against insulting officials are now routinely used to target critics, from journalists to opposition leaders. Istanbul's chief prosecutor, Akin Gürlek, is seen by many as a government loyalist, orchestrating cases to neutralize rivals. When Özel condemned Gürlek, he was challenging a judiciary widely viewed as an extension of executive power. The government frames the investigation as defending judicial integrity, but critics see it as a tool for political retribution. Since the 2016 coup attempt, purges and restructuring have eroded judicial independence. The Özel case is not just about one politician's words, it's a symbol of the broader struggle over whether Turkey's institutions serve democracy or authoritarianism. The outcome will set a precedent for the limits of dissent in Turkey. The crackdown on Özgür Özel is the latest in a sweeping campaign against opposition-led municipalities. The March 2025 arrest of Istanbul Mayor Ekrem İmamoğlu on disputed corruption charges sent shockwaves through the country, sparking mass protests. Since then, 11 CHP mayors have been removed and replaced by government-appointed trustees, especially in key districts around Istanbul and Adana. The government claims it's fighting corruption, but the pattern overwhelmingly targets CHP officials, while AKP figures face little scrutiny. This selective lawfare effectively nullifies local election results, seizing control of municipal resources and authority. The strategy, once used against pro-Kurdish mayors, now targets the mainstream opposition, marking a dangerous escalation. The purge is hollowing out local democracy, disenfranchising millions, and creating a climate of fear among opposition politicians. The message, No one is safe from removal or arrest if they challenge the central government. This assault on local governance is deepening polarization and undermining the very foundation of Turkish democracy. The consequences will be felt for years to come. Turkey's current turmoil is the product of an entrenched doctrine prioritizing state control over democratic freedoms. Media freedom has been decimated, with most outlets under government sway and independent journalists facing constant threats. In June 2025, the government even blocked access to Imamoglu's social media, cutting off vital communication with supporters. The judiciary, purged and politicized since 2016, now serves as an enforcement arm for the executive. High-profile cases against figures like Osman Kavala and Selahattin Demirtas show how the courts are used to silence dissent. This climate of fear discourages open debate and deepens polarization, as critics risk job loss or imprisonment. The crackdown on the CHP is the boldest application yet of this doctrine, targeting the heart of the opposition. The government's crackdown has split Turkish society. Erdogan supporters see the measures as necessary to maintain order, viewing the opposition as destabilizing and corrupt. Pro-government media amplifies this narrative, painting critics as threats to national security. For opposition supporters, the arrests and removals confirm fears of creeping autocracy. Mass protests erupted after Imamoglu's arrest, with citizens decrying what they see as a political coup against their votes. Political analysts warn that targeting the CHP marks a new phase, no longer just suppressing Kurdish parties, but eliminating all real competition. Many Turks are exhausted by years of conflict, but the latest crackdown has reignited a sense of urgency and resistance. As one teacher put it, "We cannot give up now. The future of our children is at stake." The struggle has become a battle for the soul of Turkish democracy, with both sides digging in for a long fight. The outcome will define the nation's direction for years to come. The international community has voiced concern over Turkey's crackdown, but action has been limited. The EU and US have called for respect for democratic norms, but Turkey's strategic importance as a NATO ally and migration partner tempers their response. Erdogan uses this leverage to dismiss criticism as foreign interference, knowing practical consequences are rare. Human rights groups are more direct, ranking Turkey among the world's worst for press freedom and democratic backsliding. Yet their influence on Western policy is minimal. The result is a frustrating paradox: widespread condemnation, but little real pressure. Geopolitics, not principles, dictate the West's cautious approach. Turkey stands at a crossroads, with its democratic future in jeopardy. If Özel and Imamoglu are convicted and banned from politics, the opposition will be decapitated ahead of the 2028 elections, erasing any pretense of fair competition. Such moves risk massive public backlash and unrest, deepening social and political fractures. The economy, already fragile, could spiral further if instability grows. Alternatively, a protracted stalemate could paralyze governance, as opposition-led cities resist, while the government obstructs. Turkey's international standing would erode, isolating it from Western allies and worsening economic woes. At stake is more than the fate of a few leaders. It's about whether the people's right to choose their government will survive. The world is watching to see if Turkey's democracy can withstand this historic test.